Bill McKibben, you have been, I think, a really important voice when it comes to the fight. And you've always talked about, or at least the thing that has stuck with me is when you talk about really taking on fossil fuel companies as adversaries, as being enemies of life, as being enemies of people. Do you feel like they're kind of giving up the fight because they realize that they're losing, just like sort of the cigarette companies lost the moral, and the health argument, that they're losing the argument? And do you feel like we can sort of like knock them out, or they still have more fight in them and we have to kind of like handhold them and sort of, yay, we're in a partnership, we actually love you?
Right question. And right historical analogy, because they hired all the guys from the cigarette industry right. 25 years ago to run their propaganda campaign. So look, the years of them being able to fund climate denial are gone. Climate denial in a kind of overt way got on the plane with Trump to Florida, and it's not coming back, But what they can do and are doing is trying to delay. They know that 50 years from now, we're going to run the planet on sun and wind because it's free. It's already the cheapest way to generate power in the world. And so they're not stupid. They understand that. Their goal now is simply to keep their business model in operation for another 2 decades, 3 decades. The trouble is, if they do, they'll break the planet. And so we have to keep standing up to them in a big way. That's why things like this fossil fuel divestment movement that Naomi Klein and I launched about a decade ago and has now become, by some measures, the largest anti-corporate campaign in history. We're at about $15 trillion in endowments and portfolios that have divested from fossil fuel, including, happily, the University of California system, which was one of the biggest and most important. That's why that's so important. We have to keep trying to weaken the political power of these guys, the financial and political power, in every way we can, because that's the only thing that levels the playing field. That's why we've spent the last 10 years building out these climate movements around the world. 350 was a kind of early iteration, but Extinction Rebellion, Fridays for the Future, Sunrise Movement, on and on and on.
When you manufactured Greta Thunberg, right? When you put her together from all the angriest parts of every climate movement and just created this child.
Greta is great. And the best thing, I love her and I love working with her. And I think she'd be the first to say the best thing is that there are 10,000 Greta Thunbergs. There are so many great young people and they have 10 million followers. And that's good because that's the counterbalance that we need to the incredible weight of the fossil fuel industry. These guys have so much money that they're able, and they've been gaming the political system for so long that they're really good at it. Who are the Koch brothers? They are the biggest oil and gas barons in the United States. They made enough money that they were able to purchase themselves a political party. That's hard to beat. That's why we've been unable to do anything about climate change. And that's why it's such an interesting moment right now, watching Biden respond to the fact that the polling makes clear that people are really ready and even desperate for action on climate change. You're in California, Francesca. There's now a month or two of the year when everybody's looking over their shoulder to see what's caught on fire, where the governor's telling you to go inside and tape the windows shut so the particulates don't destroy your lungs.
We just have to live on the moon for a couple of months out of the year. We just
that's in California, which was always our image of the most the kind of idyllic existence on planet Earth, the place where you went to chill if you got really lucky, and now
the place where you can run for re-election at 87 with dementia, California is so full of shit right now, Bill. I'm so mad at our state. Like, all of our state assembly is bought by the oil and gas industry too. They've all skipped town during COVID to go to Maui or wherever the fuck.
It is really sad to watch, to see that California won't grapple. California's doing a lot of good things, it must be said. Its work around cars and renewable energy is great. And credit to Jerry Brown and Gavin Newsom and people for all that work. The fact that California can't bring itself to stop giving permits for people to drill for oil in the middle of Los Angeles, or in Kern County, in the poorest parts of the state, that's just crazy. California's got money enough that it no longer needs the oil industry, which is a tiny pimple on its, on the rear end of its economy.
Yeah, we've got all this alfalfa. We ship it over to China. Lots of money.
You've got all that silicon. That's where you're really,
Yeah, exactly.
That's what the money is. Yeah.
Have you heard about Facebook? Yeah, we get all that money. I'm sorry.
That's really helpful.
I do think it's really interesting and important that you said in terms of the way that if you scratch the surface of any right-wing outlet there, it just bleeds oil. I mean, that's where you strike oil, right? Like that Breitbart was founded by Robert Mercer, or supported by Robert Mercer and Rebecca Mercer, his, vampiric daughter. And they've, funneled so much money into overinflating the xenophobia to distract from climate, the, sexism to distract from climate, and then you've got the dark money groups, obviously Koch brothers included, and the Mercers included, who, as Jane Mayer documented, it is their system. We're just living in a creation that they made, that these fossil fuel companies made, and these fossil fuel barons made. And so to me, it's also about, anyway,
one of the really good things about moving to renewable energy is not only is it cleaner, but if we do it right, it'll help distribute power a little bit again. I mean, one of the reasons that the world is as unequal as it is that one of our most important commodities, energy, is under the control of a tiny percentage of people who just happen to live atop the places where we have deposits of coal and gas and oil. That's why people pay attention to the Koch brothers. That's why people pay attention to the king of Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's not like he has good ideas about the world. He, beheads people, but he's got a lot of oil, so everybody sucks up to him. Everybody's got sun and wind, and so there'll be at least a certain amount of sharing of power as it begins to take over our energy system. We could really work to make that happen by emulating what the Scandinavians and the Germans have done in terms of a lot of community ownership of, look, it does seem odd that anyone should really get to own the sun and the wind that fall on us. It does seem like a kind of thing that at the very least we should be reaping some of the benefits from.
It feels like it's a very Star Wars moment where the doors are closing, and I have a very big sinking feeling that we're going to be left on the wrong side of the doors once our window
doors.
Once it all, you know what I mean? Because we're almost there, but like you said, we can't afford 10 more years, 20 more years of oil and gas drilling. We just don't have that.
I mean, that's the real urgency of the moment. The engineers did their job over the last decade. They dropped the price of solar power and wind power by 90%. That changed everything. Every spreadsheet looks entirely different than it did a decade ago. And it means that if we wanted to make really serious change fast, we could around the world. We could make this the prime chore for the human and the prime adventure in a lot of ways for human societies over the next decade. If we don't do it, it's not like we're going to stop climate change. We're already in trouble and it's going to get worse. But we're at a point where we may still have enough leverage to keep it from reaching a temperature where it cuts civilization off at the knees. That's what the next decade is about. And that's what we've got to work so hard for.
Can I ask a question?
No. Bill, why?
I just want to, the mitigating circumstances of the next decade are also that more viruses are going to come out of various parts of the world because of climate change. It's a direct relationship that these pandemics are often sometimes because of sub-zero freezes, defrosting, and what comes out of there.
The permafrost.
The permafrost. So my question is as it's moving along, and there's going to be these additional things of climate migration, climate wars, water wars, all the other things that are going to exist around the next 2 decades. I always wonder 2 things. Is there a silver bullet technology or something that people are working on, and I don't like 0 point energy or something of that nature, that if they made it, or I guess carbon capture, is there a version where someone discovers something and it shifts the balance? Is there anything on the horizon like that, or is that like fantasy thinking?
Dude,
white male.
Dude, they already discovered it. I mean, look, a solar panel, you can point a sheet of glass at the sun, and out the back comes electricity. Right. I mean, that's Hogwarts scale magic, man. I mean, what else do you want? I mean, it's like it's like that joke about the guy who's, stranded on top of the house as the floodwaters rise, and he tells, he's praying to God to help him, and a guy comes by in a canoe, and he says, "No, I'm God's going to rescue me." And a guy comes by in a helicopter, and God's going to rescue me, and the guy drowns, and he gets up to heaven and says to God, "Why did you rescue me?" And God's like, "I sent you a boat, I sent you a helicopter. What the hell did you want?" I mean, solar power
God
and
is
wind
gonna
power,
innovate
that's
away.
pretty good,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're just like, in that analogy, I just love like the guy on the top who's like, God's going to innovate a way to like disrupt the rescue industrial complex system. And the canoes are no longer going to be relevant. I was like, fool, get on the fucking boat. Get in the boat. Have you become a patron yet? Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room is where you can directly support this show and help me make it sustainable so that I can do more of what I do best. Doing this.